So, at long last, the ANC has responded to the DA's replacement of BEE with their inclusive for all bill that they wish to table. I went through that bill on Monday and I was incredibly scathing on the bill and all of my opinions on that stand. So, you can watch that video for a more in depth look at my commentary on the bill. The problem with the DA's bill is that it doesn't negate or remove the fundamental flaws that exist in BEE. Yes, it removes the race based component, and on that front, I absolutely agree. It moves it to a more need based component, and again, on that front, I absolutely agree. It wants to focus more on small and medium businesses. Again, on that front, I absolutely agree. The problem with the DA's bill is if implemented, it would bloat the state significantly because the state will no longer simply need to look at we need X done, who can do X, but rather we need X done, but then in order to achieve X, we also need the company that does X to do a million other things. And this company will have to present a proposal where they explain how they're going to create a more inclusive economy, how they're going to employ people and help them build skills, how they're going to help people with further education. So effectively, it will turn all companies into arms of the state, which, as far as I'm concerned, and the DA has admitted this, it comes straight from the UN's 2030 Sustainable Development Proposal, which is the replacement of the failed Agenda 21 proposal, because it never works. None of these large-scale proposals to try and change society from the top ever works. Any company or any country that has tried to do it has seen a significant failure, in spite of what the DA claims is tested and true methods. It's never been tested, and it's definitely never worked where it's been tried. So, just on that front, I have tremendous problems with what the DA is suggesting. But the ANC has hit back, and effectively, the ANC has said, hey, the DA needs to stay in their lane. We and we alone have a monopoly on stupid policies. So when the president, Ramaphosa, was asked about the new proposal from the DA, he did what he always does, which is he has no idea what they're talking about. He says, the issue of BEE as it's being raised by the DA, I have not yet seen their proposals. What they are suggesting is what I have not yet seen. This man is the president of South Africa, and yet he appears to be the one man in our country that never knows what the hell is going on. There's a general making alliances with a terrorist state. Our president has no idea that he doesn't even know where Iran is, quite frankly. Ooh, what general? I didn't know about a meeting. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. Therefore, you can't look at me. There's corruption happening. Oh, I have no idea who this person is. Oh, I was walking in front of a person's house that has stolen billions from Tembisa Hospital. I didn't know. Oh, actually, I was married to his aunt, but I've never met him. Actually, yes, I have seen him a couple of times, but we weren't friends. Actually, yes, I've stopped at his house a couple of times, but, one has to stop when you're walking every single day. The president just never knows. It's so convenient, but also so frustrating to deal with a man because he gets away with it every single time. You see, none of the media goes after him. I don't know what Ramaphosa has on News 24 or on any of the other media outlets in South Africa, but it has to be something big. It either means he's paying the bills or he owns a large stake in those media houses, which I wouldn't be surprised by. Ramaphosa is friends with a lot of billionaires, and as we've seen with Johan Rupert joining Mr. Ramaphosa in the White House, clearly the billionaires like him. Why do they like him? Because they get very, very rich off of the ANC. And that really goes to the heart of BEE. Because the ANC finally, after seeing the proposal, hit back and said, this will absolutely not happen. Instead, what they did was accuse the DA of wanting to take South Africa back to a racial and apartheid past. And they would absolutely not allow it to happen. They insist that BEE has worked, and that in fact BEE has worked so well that to go back now would be to undo decades of progress after what they deem to be 3.5 centuries of oppression. Now let's deal with this not in order. 3.5 centuries of oppression, what the hell are you talking about? 3.5 centuries ago, the white Afrikaners arrive in South Africa, in the Western Cape. They would not form a republic or a governmental system until much, much later, almost 200 and odd years later. Instead, they stuck mostly to themselves. They did not interfere with anyone else, and the only times they fought was when they were attacked. We have the history, and this history wasn't written by the victors, mind you. The history here was written by the English and the Irish. You'll remember that it was the English and the Irish that nearly pushed the Afrikaner community to extinction during the First and Second Boer War. So they had every reason to lie through their teeth about the history of the Boer people, and yet they did not. If one wants to make a claim that black people were oppressed in South Africa, one has to start in the 1940s, even the 1950s, with the official governmental state of South Africa. Maybe you can go back to the 1930s if you really want, but at that point it was the British that was in charge. So really, you can't even blame the Afrikaner for that, because the Afrikaner was then also excluded largely from the government. The point being that that just shows a severe lack of historical knowledge. Not suggesting that what happened under apartheid was good, because it absolutely fundamentally was not. But one has to be very careful when you make claims, especially when those claims cannot be tested. But okay, so the ANC insists that BEE does in fact work. You have the ANC's spokesperson, Malengi Bengu, who said, "We have a lot of excellence where people are rising in the corporate sector, people who have risen in the public sector as executives, and women who have climbed the corporate ladder in the entities as CEOs. Many of those people are proudly beneficiaries of black economic empowerment, and so we will not have a situation where that happens on the part of the ANC. All I can stress, though, is that there will not be a day in South Africa where BEE is scrapped as legislation." That's according to the DA, or according to the ANC. He further goes on to say, "We are still dealing with a party that wants to take us back to racism, apartheid, and discrimination in our country." COSATU's parliamentary coordinator, Matthew Parks, said something similar. Transformational legislation like broad-based black economic empowerment, employment equity didn't fall from the sky. They were a specific response to 3.5 centuries of discrimination. We just discussed that, where 90% plus of society was denied access to resources and to create opportunities to earn a living and so forth. They are a necessity to do that when we have come to the point where they're no longer necessary, when we've reached an equal society where we don't have legacy and discrimination. You can have that discussion, but for the time being, we need it. The question, of course, is what do we need? What has BEE actually wrought? It has destroyed the economic growth of this country, where the country in the first 2 quarters of this year has grown by 0.4%. In other words, we're no longer even a 0.8% growth economy. We are going down to a 0.4% economy in the first 2 quarters. If we want to hit 0.8%, we would need to grow in the next 2 quarters well over 1.5%, which has not happened in a really long time. This is firmly as a result of BEE. Black people have gotten poorer. There's been report after report that showcases this. There are now more than 28 million people living on government grants as a result of BEE and affirmative action and employment equity. Our economy isn't growing. Our rand is weakening. Corruption is rife. Corruption, by the way, directly tied to BEE. But of course, for the ANC, the reason BEE works isn't because it empowers the ordinary black man on the street. Because if you just think about the actual mechanics of BEE, you understand that someone living in Soweto will never be able to own 30% of Starlink. Where are you supposed to get the millions to buy into it? It will only ever be for the cadres, and that was the whole point of the legislation. The DA actually correctly laid that out in their own press conference, where they explained people like Johan Rupert, people like the rich a-holes in our country, they were the architects of BEE. The idea was that the ANC allows them to get rich and remain rich, and in turn, they will spread the wealth among those that the ANC deem sufficient. It is not a system meant to uplift ordinary black people. It is a system meant to uplift only the politically connected. People like Julius Malema have benefited greatly from BEE. People like Paul Mashatile, even Cyril Ramaphosa, has built nothing in their entire lives. In fact, they have only ever destroyed and leached off of the work done by others. South Africa requires two things in order to begin the healing process. The first, the complete and utter eradication of the ANC. The second, the complete and utter eradication of the rich billionaires that allowed the ANC to loot, steal, and bleed this country dry while they profit and send all of their profits to their offshore accounts. Because when South Africa falls, they will be fine. Thank you so much for watching, and a massive shout out and a thank you to all of the patrons as well as the YouTube channel members. To become a patron, hit the link in the description down below or the join button right below this video for YouTube membership. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Peace.